I woke up at 2 a.m. to the sound of someone whispering. It sounded like my husband and daughter talking. Curious about what they were discussing, I pretended to be asleep and listened in.
We'll put this in Mom's breakfast tomorrow. It's medicine to make her feel better.
Really? Will it make Mom feel better?
Of course.
I was shocked to hear their conversation. What on earth was my husband thinking? And then the next morning, believe it or not, he was rushed to the hospital in an ambulance. Sensing his scheme, my daughter and I decided to take certain actions. Please enjoy the surprising twists and turns that unfold next. My name is Ashley, and I'm 35 years old. I work hard at my job every day. My family consists of my husband, Carl, and our 6-year-old daughter, Emma. Despite being busy, we enjoyed a happy life as a family of 3. Carl has loved cooking since he was a kid and had just opened his dream restaurant. Since it's a new venture, we didn't have many customers yet. I wished I could help out at the restaurant. But since its income wasn't stable yet, I had to continue working to support us financially. I'm sorry, I can't be of more help, especially when things are tough. He shook his head vigorously.
Don't apologize. Thanks to you, we can manage even if the restaurant is running at a loss. I'm sorry for the burden. Just wait. I'll make the restaurant successful.
I'm looking forward to it, honey. Just don't overwork yourself. Please. I responded, always supporting his dream. Little did I know that something unexpected was about to happen. It had been over 2 years since Carl started the restaurant, but the business wasn't really taking off. Perhaps that's why he began spending more time there and hardly ever came home. He had hired a young waitress, but that wasn't enough. He seemed to be handling everything from prep work to cooking and cleanup mostly by himself. I was worried about his health as he was working day and night. I offered to help a few times, but he always gently refused, saying,
Don't worry about me.
Our daughter Emma also seemed sad, missing her dad. I didn't want him to overexert himself, but if he said he didn't need help, there was nothing I could do. I was also worried about Emma. It's common for parents to worry that their child might be falling behind others in development. But my concern was the opposite. Emma was exceptionally smart, without any bias from me. She started talking normally at 1, mastered the alphabet at 3, read picture books by herself, and could nearly write sentences at 4. By 5, she was using my computer and smartphone. And at 6, she started reading foreign languages and looking up meanings on her own. To my husband, who rarely saw her, she just seemed like a normal child, unaware of her abilities. But I worried that her intelligence might be used for something bad. That's why I had told her not to show off her smarts too much outside. I thought about discussing her with Carl, but decided against it, not wanting to bother him in his busy state. This decision would later prove to be the right one. One day, my office unexpectedly closed due to a minor fire in another company on a different floor of our building. The sprinklers went off, soaking everything. Water even started leaking into our office. We had to move important documents and cover computers, resulting in a big commotion. Apparently, the fire was caused by a forgotten cigarette by an employee upstairs. What a nuisance for us. Until the repairs were completed, our office was closed. This sudden day off left me feeling a bit lost. I considered picking up Emma from daycare, then had a thought. This was the perfect chance to help at Carl's restaurant. I headed there right away. Thinking it rude to show up unannounced, I called Carl, but he didn't answer. He must have been too busy. When I got to the restaurant, I felt something was off. The flowers outside were wilted, and the place was eerily quiet. Inside, there were no customers. Then, I heard laughter from the kitchen, Carl's voice, and the waitresses. They seemed to be having a great time. I couldn't quite explain it, but I had a bad feeling, like a woman's intuition. Peeking into the kitchen, I saw Carl and the waitress goofing around, too close for a boss and an employee. He was touching her cheek, almost ready to kiss her. I couldn't help but call out, "Hey, what are you two doing?" He turned to me with a startled look, his face turning pale, and quickly stepped away from the waitress. She noticed me and hurriedly moved to another part of the restaurant. Their behavior seemed suspiciously like they were trying to hide something. He gave me a forced smile.
"Oh, Ashley? I'm surprised you came by unexpectedly. What's up? You know, I have my own schedule here. It's really inconvenient. We come without an appointment."
The office had a bit of trouble, so we closed. I thought I'd check on the restaurant. There aren't any customers. I thought you were busy since you didn't answer your phone.
Well, customers usually don't come until lunchtime. It's pretty slow around this time. I didn't notice the phone ringing.
He looked uncomfortable, his eyes darting around. I had a lot I wanted to say to him, but I had planned to help out, so I tried to do just that. But he said,
"It's okay. We have enough help. Customers will be coming soon,"
and practically pushed me out of the restaurant. His strange behavior left me feeling uneasy. Later, I waited at home for his return, but he never came back that day. After putting Emma to bed, I stayed up, waiting for him. The next morning, Carl sneaked back home early. I caught him trying to slip into the living room and called out from behind, "Welcome back. You're being awfully careful just to enter the house."
"Whoa. You're awake? I thought you'd be sleeping."
He avoided eye contact with me the whole time, looking pretty awkward. Annoyed, I confronted him about his shady behavior with a waitress at his restaurant. "What's the deal with the waitress you hired? You two seemed pretty cozy. And yesterday, you were about to kiss her, weren't you?"
"Hey, don't talk nonsense. She's just an employee. Yesterday, she said she got something in her eye, and I was just trying to help her out."
I didn't believe a word he said, but without proof, I couldn't press the issue further. So I apologized. "Seems like I misunderstood. Sorry about that. Changing the subject, I asked about the restaurant. His expression turned serious.
To be honest, the business is struggling. We're not getting enough customers and are operating at a loss. If this continues, we might have to close. I'm planning to talk to the bank about a loan.
Hearing this, I felt disheartened. His restaurant wasn't doing well, and we were already cutting corners everywhere. And now, we might end up in debt too. Despite my gloom, I had to stay upbeat in front of Emma, our daughter. Then one day he suggested,
Let's go on a family trip. Looks like we might get the loan from the bank. I think we can take a break and make some great memories before things get busy again.
Indeed, we hadn't been out much due to the restaurant's troubles. Hearing about the trip, Emma was even more excited than I was. Thinking it'd be a nice break, I agreed to the trip. Our relationship had been strained lately, so maybe this could mend things. So, we set off on a 2-night, 3-day family trip. The first day at the amusement park was fun. Emma was happy. Carl was smiling, and even I managed to enjoy myself, putting aside my troubled thoughts. After a full day at the park, we stayed at a nearby hotel. It was spacious, and the dinner was lavish. Relaxed, I fell asleep, talking to Emma about what we should do the next day. At 2 a.m., I suddenly woke up to Carl and Emma whispering. Curious about what they were discussing, I pretended to be asleep and listened in.
Listen, tomorrow we'll put this medicine in Mom's breakfast. She's been so tired from work, right? This is a nutritional supplement.
Mom will get better? Yay! But why keep it a secret? Just tell her it's a health supplement.
This medicine needs to be taken in large amounts. She wouldn't like that, so it's kind of a surprise. She'll be happier if it seems like a gift from you. Once she's better, we'll tell her it's a health supplement.
Their suspicious conversation made me tense. Any health supplement that needs to be hidden doesn't sound legitimate. What was he planning? Pretending to sleep, I heard his snores. Then Emma whispered,
Mom, you're awake, right?
Confused, I sat up. She handed me something.
I want you to see this.
Through her, I learned about his scheme. He had betrayed us. That jerk. The next morning, we began eating the fancy breakfast prepared in our room. Despite its delicious appearance, I couldn't taste much due to my nerves. Emma happily munched on her bread, exclaiming,
This is so good.
Carl smirked as he watched me eat. What's up? I asked. He just smiled, saying,
Nothing.
He probably thought his plan was working. Just you wait. About 15 minutes later, he suddenly started suffering. He foamed at the mouth, writhing on the floor, scratching his chest. He collapsed. I called for help, saying, My husband has collapsed. An ambulance rushed him to the hospital, where a stomach wash saved him. The doctor said he had ingested a certain drug, meant for animals, not humans. The doctor wondered where he had gotten it. Later, in his hospital room, Carl looked utterly confused.
Ashley, aren't you feeling sick or nauseous?
No, I'm perfectly fine.
How can that be? Emma, what happened to our agreement
Carl, now desperate, confronted Emma. He couldn't even bother coming up with excuses in his state. She smiled sweetly and said,
Mom's full of energy, so she didn't need the supplement. I put it in your food instead. But you lied, Dad. Instead of getting better, you ended up here.
What?
He was shocked. She knew from the start that the supplement wasn't really for nutrition. I managed to figure out that the pills weren't for humans, but I didn't know exactly what they were. On a hunch, I slipped them into Carl's food.
And Dad, you were lying to me and Mom. I checked your phone while you were sleeping and found lots of pictures of you with some woman I don't know. That night, she had handed me Carl's cell phone. She'd figured out his password from his notes. The phone was full of pictures and him and his mistress, some in their underwear, others hugging tightly. There was no denying it. He had been cheating with the waitress at his restaurant. Just a colleague. Huh. To make matters worse, he had been discussing with his mistress over email about how to get rid of me and cash in on my life insurance. Emma knew all about it. He stared at her in disbelief.
How could a 6-year-old child like you do all this?
Carl, having been away from home for so long, didn't realize how smart she was. He thought tricking her and poisoning me would be a piece of cake. Poor you, not knowing your own child's intelligence. Can you explain what this is all about, right here in front of us? I demanded, glaring at him. He turned pale and started mumbling an explanation.
I had no choice. I was drowning in debt.
He'd been lying to me. His restaurant had been deserted, not just during lunchtime, but always. The debt kept piling up, and in desperation, he planned to poison me and pay off everything with a life insurance. What a bold plan. You'd think it was something out of a movie or a TV show. If I had died, wouldn't the police investigation have easily uncovered the truth? Or was he so blinded by money that he couldn't even think that far ahead? As I sighed, he suddenly trembled. In a fawning voice, he pleaded,
I was wrong. When I'm discharged, I'll work hard and break things off with her. I got persuaded by her to do such a stupid thing, but I've realized you're the only one for me, Ashley.
I was disgusted by his self-centered words. Persuaded by her? Did he really think we could start over after trying to harm me? My voice grew harsh. Don't be ridiculous. Of course we're getting divorced. I'm claiming alimony and child support. And I'm reporting this to the police. He went pale. He began to kneel on his hospital bed.
Please, spare me that. If the police get involved, my restaurant is done for. After all the support you've given. Are you going to ruin it now? And Emma will grow up with a single parent. Is that what you want?
That was the last straw for me. He made it sound like what he had done wasn't a big deal. And he had the nerve to use Emma to convince me. Shut up. Do you think you have the right to say that after betraying me, cheating with a waitress, and trying to poison me? You're an idiot.
But that's because...
The worst part is that you lied to Emma and tried to make her an accomplice in a crime. Deceiving your own daughter? You don't deserve to be her father. Stay away from me and her forever. With that, Emma and I left the hospital room, ignoring Carl's desperate calls from behind. Afterward, we divorced. Carl and his mistress were arrested and became ex-convicts. I claimed alimony and child support from him. Selling his restaurant wasn't enough to cover it, and he ended up in debt again. Released from police custody, he was disowned by his parents. His mistress managed to pay off her debts by borrowing from her family, but she was also disowned. Carl and his mistress soon split up. From what I hear, they both lead miserable lives now. Let them suffer and learn their lesson. As for me, I've returned to my parents' home with Emma, living peaceful days. Emma, being so intelligent, might face more challenges than other kids. But I'll be there for her, supporting and watching her grow.